Alright guys, we're going to start today by creating our color wheel tree by painting our color wheel first, right? We're going to start with our primary colors, which we've already learned. We know that our red, yellow, and blue are our primary colors, and then we'll put in our secondary colors. So we're going to put in our purple, our green, and our orange. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with our blank paper, and we're going to start with our yellow. We've got our paint today and our water and our brush, and we know that we have to add some water over to our yellow. Now, we'll make sure that we don't tap our cup, right? If you have extra water on here, go ahead and rub off your drippy and add it to your yellow, swirl it around, and then let's just pick a spot up here at the top and add our yellow. Okay, we're just going to make kind of a circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. It can be a messy circle. Alright, and then let's add our next primary color. Let's add our red down here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get my water, swirl up my red paint, and then add a little red. Kind of looks like a puffy cloud perhaps. Alright, we rinse our brush, right, get all that red off. And then let's add our last primary color. What's our last primary color? It's blue. So let's go ahead and swirl around our blue. Alright, so here is our blue. Alright. Okay, now we're going to add our secondary color. So that secondary colors is when we mix our two primary colors together. So let's start with our red and our yellow. When you mix red and yellow together, what do you get? You get orange. So let's go ahead and mix up our orange paint. Rub your drippies off on the cup if you need to. And then in between the red and the yellow, let's go ahead and add an orange circle. Okay, a messy little orange circle or cloud. All right, what about red and blue? When you mix together red and blue, we get purple. So let's mix up our purple and add that in between the purple and the red. And if it mixes together a little bit with your purple and red, that's fine, not a big deal. All right, and our last one, if we mix together yellow and blue, we get green. So let's mix up our green, get a nice color, roll it around. All right, and then put your green in between your yellow and blue. All right, now we have this little spot in the middle that's open, and on a tree we don't want that open. So just choose your favorite color that you want and go ahead and just color that in. I'm going to choose maybe yellow and fill that in with yellow. All right, guys, so now what we want to do, we've got our color wheel for our tree, the leaves on our tree. We want to paint our ground and our sky. So I'm going to go ahead and start down here. I'm going to find the bottom and I'm going to get my green and I'm just going to paint a line across it to be my ground. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be straight because grounds are kind of wavy or wiggly. So just go ahead and paint you a green stripe at the bottom to be your ground. And then we're going to rinse our brush off, and now we want to add our blue sky around our tree. So go ahead and go to your blue, swirl it around, get you some paint on there, and we're going to paint around our sky. Okay, you can get close to it, you can touch it a little bit, but try not to get too much paint on your tree. Alright, just go ahead and swirl it around some more to get some more paint. You may need to add more water. And let's paint around our tree. And you don't have to paint all of it. If you forget some spots, that's fine. It'll just make it look like it's clouds in the sky. So paint around your tree. Alright. Okay, so we have our sky, our ground, and our tree. Next week, we will draw, after this dries, we'll draw the tree itself, and we will use some stamps and some ink to add our leaves around the tree. Okay? All right. We have got our tree leaves done. We made a color wheel. We've painted our sky and our ground. Today we're going to add our tree and our ground line, and then we're going to stamp on some leaves on here using an ink pad and some leaf stampers. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our tree down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start up here and we're going to make a V on our tree. Okay. And then we're going to make a line that comes down and goes all the way down to the ground and then kind of curves out a little bit. Now we're going to go to the other side and we're going to do the same. We're going to come down and we're going to curve a little bit and then curve out. Now I want to connect the bottom line. So you can kind of do it with a wavy line. Make it kind of wiggly. Alright, so we're going to make another V over here. So make a big V kind of coming off your tree. But we want to make this kind of a thick, messy looking V. Okay, so kind of color it thick. Okay. And come over here and maybe make another V shape. These are your tree branches, okay? So they don't have to be perfect. You can make them kind of wiggly, kind of wavy. Maybe you would have another V coming off. It's up to you how you want to design your tree. Now let's take our black and let's go ahead and just color in our tree right here. And doesn't have to be perfect, but do the best you can. Stay in your line. Let's color our tree. Now try to keep your hands away from the black oil pastel, because if you put your hands on here, it might smear and kind of make a big mess. Okay, so let's go to the bottom now and put a line in between our ground and our sky. All right, we've got our tree drawn. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and take our stampers here, and we're going to add leaves all over our tree. Okay, all over it, over and over and over. So we're going to take our leaf and we're going to dip it here in our stamper. You're going to have to kind of push down hard to get it on there, and then just start stamping and kind of turning. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a while. We're going to try to get as many leaves as we can get on there. You can stamp it and then put it on your paper a couple of times before. And then if you want, you can use a different one. Switch stampers and use one that's just a little different shape. The more you put on there, the nicer it's going to look. So take your time on this. Really fill up your page with leaves. Okay, let's really fill that page up. Go ahead and stamp it a few times, okay? Don't just do it once. Stamp it several times. It's okay if one's bright and one's not so bright. Don't forget in between your limbs, do some in there. All over. Then you can switch back to the other one for a while if you want. Do a few more of those. We're filling up our whole page with leaves. Now using a stamp is printmaking. We call this printmaking. That's when we transfer art onto paper with ink using something else. Today we're using a stamp. Alright, so when you get to where you like it, we're going to have to let this dry so we don't smear our ink. Okay, we'll let it dry. And there you have it. There is our tree art.